Thank you all for joining us. I'm Emily Jennings, Senior Manager for Chapter Support and Development. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces, and we have more people coming in. Just so everyone knows, on the call, we have chapter executive directors, chapter staff, presidents, and president-elects as well. And today we are going to review the chapter. We're doing the chapter knowledge series on the chapter achievement and excellence awards. And many of you I know have probably submitted for these awards. Some of you, it may be your first time. So I hope that all of you will be able to learn something today. If you have tips for your fellow chapters, please speak up and let us know. I'll give a chance for you all to do that. And if you have questions, feel free to stop me so we can talk about any questions you have as well. You can also post that in the chat and Kelly will help me monitor that as well. All right, so here's a picture of all of our chapter Excellence Award winners last year. This is an awesome picture. If you don't have this, you can pull it off a Media Valet and use it within your chapter. All right, so before we go into the categories for chapter awards, I first want to talk about some submission guidelines. First of all, you'll want to identify an existing or new successful chapter program. This can be something that you've done in that you've started prior years. It doesn't have to be a new program just this year. Maybe you've submitted for an award for this particular program before and didn't receive it. I would encourage you, to tweak that submission and submit again. Programs that have received national recognition through this award program within the past 3 years will not be considered. So if you've won an award for this in the past 3 years, we check that and it wouldn't be considered. I would encourage you to gather people who have contributed to the program's success. Maybe this is committee members or volunteers who've worked on the program to help you with submitting the award entry. It's always good to have one person who writes the award and to be kind of oversee that and then allow other people to contribute to that as well. And each chapter can submit one entry per award. So we have 5 different categories and each chapter can submit a submission each of the 5 categories. And we encourage you to use supporting documents. So if you have pictures or charts or promotional material that you want to share, you can upload up to 10 different things in Open Water, which is the platform we use to submit. And I will show you that in just a little bit. And there's one award for each chapter size category. So, up to 5 different chapters will be awarded in one category. You can also receive the Chapter Achievement Award. This means that you have applied or you have got an 80% in at least 4 categories. So, you may not, it happens sometimes that you may not actually win in a category, but you get above 80% in 4, and you can still win the Excellence Award or the Chapter Achievement Award. Is there any questions so far about the submission guidelines? All right. Next, going into the categories. So the first category is chapter operations and sustainability. This is where I have a list here of different things that may qualify, but I encourage you to not just stick to this list. If you have something, that doesn't fit to one of these things on the list, it still may fit into this category. This category is chapter management or sustainability initiatives and or tools focused on strengthening the internal workings of the chapter. So this may be something like one of our chapters this last time presented a financial submission, and it was that they did a whole series of educating their board on financials, introducing them to the financials, digging deeper into them, and they won an award for that. Another thing is maybe you have tweaked your employee structure within the chapter, your staffing structure, or maybe you've done something to become more efficient. All of those things would be able to fit into this category. If you ever have a question of what fits, please feel free to reach out to me. I will help you, but I will also say that you probably have programs that could fit into multiple categories. So I would say, pick the one that most closely relates. Any questions about this category? All right. The next is leadership. These are strategic activities enhancing the mission and the vision of the organization and contribute to the overall growth of the industry. And it gives some examples here. I know one chapter won an award last year for totally revamping their committee structure. That is something that would fall under this leadership category. Also, chapters have submitted for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in this category as well. And we've had several chapters win in this for succession planning. I know that's something that chapters are really looking at, and we've had, several chapters submit that as well. So those are just some of the things that could fall under this category. Any questions there? Guys, just stop me if you have any. And yes, someone asked in the chat if I have these printouts available, and we will send you not only the handouts, but the recording as well after today. The next one is membership engagement. I think this is always the easiest one to submit for because there's so many options in this category. This is services improving and enhancing overall membership experience, satisfaction, and value of CAI. So it's any, effort that is engaging members, bringing them together. So the things under here are like a trade show, expo, if you've done a membership satisfaction survey and what that process looked like, any membership campaigns, which I know many of you are doing those and they vary so widely per chapter. Also, any recruitment tools. So if you've created, anything for your membership committees to use, if you have structured your membership committee in a certain way to be more effective, that certainly would apply here as well. So there are a lot of different things that you can use to apply in this category. Are there any questions about membership engagement? Again, I think that one is pretty straightforward. All right, the next one is public affairs. This is building the CAI brand and making the community aware of the services and resources available. Many of our chapters are doing community service projects that relate to, this housing model. So that is certainly an option. Days at the Capitol, CA Days at the Capitol, you may have applied for grants, you may offer scholarships, things like that. Those would all apply in this as well. Anything you're doing to let the community know about your chapter and why you exist would be in this. So you might be doing a public relations campaign, communications campaign or something like that, and that would all apply under here as well. Last year we had a chapter win for their social media strategy in this as well. So that would fall under this. All right. And moving right along, this is a category that we added after COVID. We realized that chapters were doing so many amazing things that were out of the box, that were not the norm, and that needed to be celebrated and recognized. So, a lot of these things that you could put in this out of the box category could fit into other categories, but I would encourage you to think like, is this something that other chapters are doing? Is this, something that chapters can take and run with it? Probably if you answer, yes to those questions, that would fit in this category. So this would be like new programs, maybe that you've introduced. Maybe, you don't know if they're going to be completely successful yet, but you've went out on a limb and you've done these. So this would be, if you're taking a risk with the chapter, thinking you're doing innovative thinking with it. Partnering with other chapters or nonprofits. That's something that we've seen our chapters starting to do. And so if you have a particular relationship that you've built or a partnership that you're doing, that could qualify under this category too. We've had some really great, really different ideas in this category. Any questions on that? All right. We did change this up a little bit. This is the questions that you'll answer whenever you're submitting for your award. If you remember back maybe 3-4 years ago, we had a ton of questions that you had to answer, and some of them were a little bit redundant. So we took those out. We put 5 questions that are all worth 20 points apiece. And these are the questions. So you will describe the program and why it fits the category. So whichever category you've chosen, you're going to talk about why it fits. You're going to talk about how did this program meet the mission and vision of the chapter and CAI as a whole. So you can relate it back to some chapters relate this back to each membership category, how this program relates to them, if it does relate to all of them. And then what was the impact on the chapter and its members after completing the program? So this is very broad, so you can focus on any of these areas. If these are just ideas, growth of membership, if financially, public awareness, membership value, a better chapter and member relationship, chapter operations, how it impacted any of those things. And then in number 4, it's going to ask you to provide quantifiable data supporting the rationale for this success. And that is super important. I'm going to show you in a little bit some of the judges' comments, and a lot of them say, listen, you say this was an awesome program. I would love to see what that looks like and how there was growth. So share, one particular chapter did a social media campaign. They shared the likes, the interaction they got with social media, and that's something that the judges really want to see. This last question is the one that we have changed this year. If you remember before, it says, will you do this program again and why? We really felt like, actually, I saw that question sometime was hurting chapters because they wouldn't fully put the time in to, figure out why, or maybe there wasn't too much to say in that question as well. So we changed that to how can you improve this program going forward? So not only do I think that will be easier for you to write, because I know that you're analyzing these programs, I think that this is going to be super helpful for chapters who are looking at implementing a program like yours, because they'll be able to look at that and figure out, what you would have done differently. So I think that's going to be a win-win all around that question. Are there any questions or comments on these questions? There's been a good question in the chat. It was, are there some sample answers from past winners? And Kelly just put in the chat the 2022 award winners. You can click in there and see their submissions and how they answered all of those questions. So that might be really helpful to you. Any comments or questions on this? All right, so next is the judging criteria. So all of the award entries, each of the different categories are scored by 3 different judges. So we have a total of 15 judges, 3 per category. They judge all of the chapter sizes in that category. So they Judges are chosen from CAI members. A judge will never judge a submission from their chapter. So if there's a chapter, if their chapter has submitted in a category, that will disqualify them from judging that category, and I will have to pick a different category for them. There's been judges who have judged before that have agreed to do it again, that unfortunately their chapter has submitted in all the categories, and I've had to, thank them and let them know I will call them again the next year. So we take that very seriously. I think it's important that it's someone who comes in that, is able to read the submission and take it for that. That is how that goes. Not only is it CAI members, but we also mix in there professionals from other associations. We have someone in there who's actually an English major, so she comes at it from a totally different perspective. So there are several different type of judges, and we a couple years ago looked at that and thought we should incorporate some different people in here as well. So there are some judges who have judged for a long time, but there's some in there that are very new to judging as well. They are given this rubric here for each of the questions, and so that they can kind of score accordingly. So poor, fair, good, and excellent, and the descriptions of what we give them are there. We don't want to limit them too much with a rubric, and so that's why it's kind of general. But this is something that we didn't provide them before up until a couple years ago, and the judges have said this is very, very helpful. One of the things that we have added this year is that you must have at least a 70% average to win in a category. And where this would come into play is if, in the large chapter category, for instance, people have submitted and the highest score is a 65, there wouldn't be a winner in that category for the year. We went back and forth on this, and the thing is these are chapter excellence awards, and so we want to make sure that we're rewarding on that excellence. So that is the reason for that. Are there any comments or questions on that? That won't happen very often. You guys usually get high scores on those, so I don't see that happening too much.
Emily, it looks like we do have a question. Dr. Robert Rothwell, I think you unmuted. Did you have something?
Yes, I didn't know if I should unmute.
Yeah.
With regards to the different size of the membership chapters, there are different categories. Do we know how many chapters are in each of the different size categories?
Yes, I have a slide on that. It's in just a few slides, so I will touch on that in just a little bit, and then if you have any questions about that, we can talk about them. So good question. I thought someone might ask, and I think it's important to know that too. All right, here are some tips and tricks. These are some tips that I've picked up from chapter executive directors through the years that they've shared with me, and things that I see as well on the submissions. And if anyone has anything to add, I'll open it up to the chapter executive directors, or even president-elects who have submitted in the past. The first one is to make sure you use visuals. So I said earlier, it gives you the opportunity to upload up to 10 different things. Judges love to see pictures if it was an event. They love to see, charts, even your budget, if you wanted to share that as well. Anything that you can do to enhance your submission, please submit it. Because they review those, and they shared with me how amazing some of these things are that you share. So please do that. One of the questions asks for quantitative data, but I just want to reiterate that anything that you can measure and show is going to be worth your while. And again, I'm going to show you some judges' comments that really drive that point home. I mentioned earlier that you can resubmit anything that you've already submitted that hasn't won in the last 3 years. So maybe you might want to look at some of the winning submissions that Kelly shared and tweak yours. I also have provided feedback from last year's awards. If you haven't seen those, please touch base with me. And I have the judges' feedback from last year, the last couple years actually, that I can share with you. I will say not all of the judges make comments, but when I, ask them to come on and judge, I really encourage them to do so because I remind them how helpful it is to you to have that information. Set a specific time on your schedule to do these awards. I know that life gets busy, but if you can schedule a time to do these and make them happen, it probably will. So just to let you know the time frame, we will be releasing these by the end of the month. So you'll be able to apply from then to the first. Let me pull up. I'm sorry, I forgot the date that it's going to close. It is that first. It's the 8th, okay? So the second, the 9th, the second Friday in February. So February 9th, 2024 will be the deadline for these. So you'll have essentially from November, the first part of November to February 9th. All right, so you want to give yourself enough time to get the submission written, share it with maybe committee members, with your president-elect to tweak it, and then get it submitted as well. Another suggestion I have is to do the write-up when it's fresh on your mind. And these questions do not change a lot. So you may want to apply this next year too. You can take these questions and kind of write out what your response would be shortly after the event or program ends, because sometimes we forget things, right? And so it's important to capture those things that you want to say in the submission. So do that when it's fresh on your mind. And then I mentioned several times to utilize committee members to help you write the submissions. As a former chapter executive director, submitting for these awards was tough for me because I am not a writer. I'm to the point. I don't, not that there needs to be fluff, but I don't like fluff. I just want to get to the point. And so what I would do is I would take the submission form, I would write the facts, just the facts, and I would give it to a committee member who was really good at putting that into words. And so I would write the facts and she would, make it look nice for me. So, let's face it, it is important. The way that it's written, the grammar, the punctuation is super important. Because if you're reading something and you're seeing mistakes in grammar and punctuation and stuff, it's hard for you to read, right? It's hard for you to get through it. So this is important. While they are not scoring on punctuation and grammar, and if you've proofread, it does affect because of them being engaged with the submission. So be sure to proofread. And spell check is my friend, so it could be your friend too. Any comments or anything from chapter executive directors or any of you who have submitted awards before? Do you have any tips for the group? Go ahead, Dr. Robert.
This is a question. Throughout this presentation, you've mentioned that you should use committee members, your staff, your chapter directors, your chapter board of directors, anyone whom you feel can contribute to the overall improvement of this. Is the chapter allowed to use outside sources like a public relations firm or something like that? I'm assuming no, but because the emphasis here is on everyone who's actively involved in the chapter, but it's in the back of my mind, so I thought I would ask it.
Yeah, that's a great question and one that I've never had come up. I'm going to go with my initial reaction would be no. I really hope, that the chapter would take the time and, use your resources to write this. I wouldn't see a chapter spending money on an outside firm, to do this. So I would highly encourage it be the chapter. But that's a great question and one that we can answer internally. But I'm going to tell you, my initial instinct says no. Let's write it within the chapter.
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. That's a great question. Anything else that chapter executive directors, presidents, president-elects that have submitted before, if you have any tips?
I have one.
Rachel, please.
Hi. Include pictures. We are naturally visual people. So even if it's just your event, the header from the event, pictures of people from the event, you can combine it into a PDF and just include it because they like to see like what you actually did. So any pictures you have from the event or the program or whatever it is you're submitting for, I would include pictures.
Absolutely. I see the chapters that do submit pictures and visuals score typically higher than other chapters. And it's because the judge can feel like they're part of that process, that event, I've had judges say, man, it's amazing. I wish I was there. They want to be there from what you've shared. Valerie?
Yeah, I don't have a tip because this is my first year, but I actually have a question. I know the chapter submitted last year. It was for a new program that they had started. And I noticed on one of the slides that it said new programs. But if we wanted to submit for that one again, because we improved it this year, can we still submit for that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The one category that is typically would be new is the outside out of the box. So that would,
That's the
a
one I
lot
wrote
of
down.
new programs might go in there. But even if it's out of the box and it's not a new program, that's totally fine too. As long as you
Okay.
haven't won for it in the last 3 years, you can submit again. And I would encourage you to do so.
And then if we are partnering with other chapters, do both chapters win? If we submit something like that, I mean,
We did, yes. So
Okay.
Rachel is a good example of that. She has submitted before for the California North and the Bay Area and Central California chapters, and they won that award together.
Okay.
We will look at who, really, I don't want to say put forth the most effort because that's not what I'm trying, but hear me when I say, the staff or someone who kind of spearheaded, that's a great word, who spearheaded the effort, and we'll put you in that size category. We have considered in the past doing like a collaboration award or something like that. And the more we see chapters working together, we may want to consider something like that. So we'll take that into consideration too, for maybe next year.
Thank you.
Any other tips or comments?
Emily, we do have a question.
Yeah.
Are short video submissions allowed? Are they able to submit a video within the system?
Yes, you can submit. People have submitted YouTube videos. Those are a lot of times the easiest. If you can get it on YouTube and share that, it's usually the easiest for them to just click on and it plays automatically. So absolutely. You can also include links to your website too on there. So if there's a link or, to a specific page or something like that, you can include that as well. Great question. Go ahead, Valerie.
I'm sorry. When we're done, I have a question unrelated to awards, so I don't want to do that now. It's
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we can stick around and answer for you. Anyone else? Any tips or anything on chapter submitting? Please, if you have any questions through the process, let me know. I can even show you past award winners from other years too, but those 2022 will give you a good start. Oh, I wanted to share some comments from judges. One is, I like seeing the breakdown of expenses, profits, but even more so the membership engagement through social media. That shows me that they looked at, that expense report that was provided and they, noticed those numbers that were shared. I feel they answered why it fits, but did not effectively describe the program itself. So make sure you're thorough in describing and answering the question and describing what the program is, what it consisted of, all of that. Again, great answers, but would work on collecting specifics so you can add to it. So this tells me be very specific, you know, with what you've measured, with what you've looked at, and all of that. Excellent use of impact on who, what, why, how. That's a really great tip. And this one said lacked excitement. So that tells me that these judges want to be engaged with what you're writing. So make it interesting. Use some humor in there. I saw a couple chapters used humor. And I'm telling you these things just so that you can engage the reader. All right. There are 2 other excellence awards that you do not apply for. These are given. Kelly looks at the retention and growth numbers and assigns who the winners are on these. That is, we do the best net retention and the best net growth, and that is given for each of the size categories as well. So you're not competing against, you know, your a small chapter isn't competing against a large chapter or any of that. And this is based on percentages. So percentage increase and retention percentage. All right, Dr. Robert, here is the slide that you were asking about. Here is the chapter sizes. So small chapter, 59 to 260 members. Most of our chapters have under 100 members, but these are including our international chapters as well, who some have less than that. There are 18 chapters in the small category. It's by far our largest category. Our medium is 261 to 510, which is 14 chapters. Large, which is 511 to 760, there's 9 chapters. This is our smallest category, and this is the category that we typically have the smallest amount of submissions for. In fact, if you're a large chapter, I hope you're listening, because last year there were categories that didn't have any submit in this category, in some of the categories. So please, if you're a large chapter, all the chapters submit, but definitely we want to get some more in that large category. Very large chapters, 761 to 1200, there's 12 chapters, and extra large is 1201 plus to 11 chapters, and there's 11 chapters. So, you know, again, not all of these chapters submit. And so it doesn't matter if there's 18 chapters in there or 9, I would say, please submit. It's definitely worth it. It's, you know, your board members and your members love to be recognized at annual conference. And it's exciting for us to be able to recognize you all for the awesome work you're doing. All right, there are 2 other awards that are also given. These awards are chosen by our Board of Trustees, but I do want to mention them because you do submit those submissions to me. The first one is the Chapter Executive Director of the Year Award. If you are writing this award, it should detail why a CED is deserving of the award, including how their actions and leadership extraordinarily contributed to their chapter, colleagues, and CAI. When people submit for this Chapter Executive Director Award, a lot of times they talk about how they work with other chapters, how they collaborate with them, you know, how they may contribute to task forces and things like that, as well as things that are going on at the local level. So I would definitely encourage you, if you're putting in for this award, to include both of those things. The next is the Rising Star nomination. And under there, we have a note that says, generally speaking, the CED of the year would have previously been a rising star, but it's certainly not a requirement for that. The Rising Star Award, it should detail why a CED is deserving of this award, including how the CED has shown exemplary leadership and chapter management since taking on the role of CED. So in this, the CED must be in their position for a minimum of 2 years. And this would only be awarded once per CED. These, again, I want to put the emphasis on making sure that you highlight the CED's collaboration with headquarters and their fellow CEDs. So how they work, with their CEDs, providing resources, doing, talking with each other, sharing, all of that. And chapter boards can submit this. I've had, a couple different submissions for maybe, a board might submit, and then somewhere down the line, they've got a submission from a member for one CED. So we have run into that before. But this is something that you will submit to me. This will be due by the end of January. Since it is decided on by our Board of Trustees, we have to have that a little bit earlier. So they do ask us, for input sometimes, but they make that decision. Any questions on that? Oh, those 2 awards. Listen, if we could give multiple of these awards every year, this is so hard for the Board of Trustees to do, to decide on what CED gets these awards, because you are all rock stars. So if we could give all the awards, we would definitely do that. What questions do you have? Comments? I'm going to stop sharing that. All right. While you're thinking of any last minute comments, just to reiterate, we will be sending this out to you all by the end of the month. So essentially you'll have November through February 9th to get these awards in. The Chapter Executive Director Awards will be due January 31st. So that is a little bit sooner. I do want to show you before we get off, I would like to show you the platform very quickly of where you'll be submitting. If you haven't submitted before, it is pretty easy. And we will make sure that you have the link. You can see this is last year, so I'm going to show you off of that. But whenever you go to the submission website, this is where it will take you. Okay, so you can look across the top. You can even see prior award recipients here, so you can look at those. You can submit an entry, and then this guidelines and criteria that I've given you, and it's also available right here as well. So this is going to give an overview of the categories, and to begin your submission, you'll just click submit entry here. You can, if you have past submissions, you can view those right there, or you can click to begin a new submission, which is what I'm going to do. Just very basic information, your chapter size. So you will need to know that. If you don't know that, let us know and we can get that information to you. The category, the program name is going to be important. So make sure you include a program name. It's going to tell you how these are going to be scored. And then you're just going to answer the questions right here on this platform. I'm going to scroll all the way down to submitting documents. So just to submit a document, you can click on choose file. It will let you drag files in there, or you can click to find something on your computer as well. It has a place to do 2 files here, but if you'd like to upload additional documents, you just click on yes, and it's going to give you, actually, we're allowing way more than 10, so you can do up to 15, it looks like. This is also a place for you to share a link here. I will add more spaces to share links as well. So if you have multiple, I'll add another 2 or 3 here, just in case you have multiple links. And then you can save and finalize here. Save if you just want to come back to it and look at it later, or save and finalize if you're ready to submit. If you accidentally hit this finalize button and you need to take it back, just let me know and I can help you with that. One thing that I do want to touch on while I'm here is we mentioned collaborating with committee members and others to write this. You can actually share this with them directly from here. So the way you do that is you would just go to manage collaborators right here. it would bring up a place that you can add them. So currently it just has me in there, but I could add a collaborator. I'm just going to add Kelly in there right now so you can see. All right. And save. And then you've given them access. So it will actually send them a direct link that says you've been given access, and they can go in here and edit and look at it as well. I would encourage you, if you're sharing with collaborators, that you always go back and check it over before you hit submit, because you want someone doing that final read through, one last read through. Are there any questions on the platform? If you have any trouble, I'm here to help. So please reach out and I'll be happy to walk you through any of that. Yes, Kyle, I will share that. I see her. Oh, Kelly's doing it. Thank you, Kelly. But we'll make sure we get that information to you. All right, any other questions? Oh, that is the one, Kelly, right? That's the one they went. Okay, thank you. All right, everyone. I am here to help through this process if you need it. If you have questions or just want to run anything by me, please don't hesitate to reach out. When we share the platform to start submitting chapter awards, we will also share the video and this presentation we did as well. I hope you all have a great day and happy submitting. See you later.
Thank you very much, Emily.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Emily.